Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're digging into something that sounds simple, but really isn't. Collaborative writing. Getting a group of people to actually write something coherent together. We've all been there, right?
Yeah.
Wrestling with shared docs, navigating those team dynamics. So this is for you if you want to get better at it. Our mission today,
Yeah.
to really cut through the noise. We're pulling the most practical strategies, maybe some surprising insights, straight from our source, a guide on technical communication. Think of this as like your fast track to understanding how to make collaborative writing work, no matter if you do it all the time or you're just starting out. Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah. And what's fascinating here is that collaboration isn't just about your immediate team anymore, is it? It's reaching outside the organization, sometimes even globally. The real trick, I think, and the opportunity is figuring out how to creatively use the strengths and, work around the limits of the tools we have and, of course, the people involved.
Right. So collaboration feels like the default now, everywhere. But we know it's not always smooth sailing. It promises a lot. But uh, what are the real concrete advantages we should be aiming for? And what are those pitfalls, the things that can trip us up?
Well, the source lays out some pretty clear advantages. It really boils down to collective brain power. First off, you instantly get access to a way broader knowledge base, more skills in the mix, too.
Okay, so different perspectives right from the start.
Exactly. And that also gives you a much better sense of how your audience might actually react to the document, because your team probably mirrors that audience in some ways. Plus, good collaboration. It genuinely improves how people communicate internally. It even motivates them to share skills, share knowledge. That's a big plus for the whole organization.
So those are definitely strong points. Makes sense. But let's be real, we've all had those projects that felt more like wading through mud than, synergy. Here's where it gets really interesting.
Mm.
What about the downsides? The stuff that often catches us out?
Ah, yes. The downsides. Well, the big one is time. Almost always, collaborative writing just takes longer than doing it solo.
All the back and forth, yeah.
Right. Coordination, discussion, revisions, it adds up. Then there's the danger of groupthink.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
It's when everyone values getting along more than actually thinking critically. So maybe the team avoids a tough but necessary point just to keep things nice.
Or settles for something bland.
Exactly. Or you end up with a document that's just disjointed, contradictory bits, repeated info, sections written in completely different styles, a real mess.
The Frankenstein document.
Precisely. And of course, you can get situations where the workload isn't shared fairly. A few people end up doing most of it.
Which leads to resentment, I bet.
Absolutely. People feel alienated, less motivated, and, worst case, it can just blow up into arguments and conflict. That can
Yeah.
totally sink a project.
Okay, so when you jump into that next shared document, the idea is to really lean into those advantages, but also be super aware of these traps and how to, sidestep them. Which brings us to the how-to, because clearly, good collaborative projects, especially the big ones, they don't just happen by magic. They need real planning, real oversight.
Exactly right. And the source gives us a pretty solid roadmap for managing these projects. It starts, maybe obviously, with breaking down the tasks. You look at the final thing you need to produce and you work backward. Chop it up into smaller, manageable pieces, makes it less daunting.
Right, less overwhelming.
Then comes the planning. You need a clear approach.
Mm.
And crucially, everyone needs to agree on the time needed, the resources. Get that sorted up front.
Avoid surprises later.
Mm-hmm. Next, scheduling. And this isn't just slapping dates on a calendar, it's creating a schedule that's accurate, easy for everyone to see, and this is key, keeping it updated. It's like the project's pulse.
A living document? Sort of.
Kind of, yeah. And documentation.
Mm.
Putting decisions down in writing, it sounds like busy work, but it's so important. Everyone remembers what was decided. New people can catch up fast. You don't argue about the same things over and over.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
You absolutely have to monitor progress, check in regularly, see where things are. That way you catch problems early before they become huge issues.
Proactive, not reactive.
Exactly. And for that to work, you need good information flow. Info needs to get shared quickly so people can make good decisions. And finally, flexibility. Things change. New information comes up. Rework happens. You've got to be ready to adjust the plan, maybe shift responsibilities. The best teams can adapt.
Yeah, being adaptable seems key. And it sounds like these guidelines aren't just about hitting the deadline, are they? They're really about making sure the final document is actually good, coherent, and does what it needs to for the audience. Which leads us nicely into meetings. Another huge part of collaboration, whether it's in person or over video, Making meetings productive is essential.
Absolutely crucial. And the bedrock of any good meeting, especially for writing projects, is just listening effectively. The source gives some great pointers here. Really pay attention to whoever's speaking. Try not to let your mind drift off.
Easier said than done sometimes.
True. But try. And avoid getting sort of emotionally caught up in their ideas. Focus on understanding. Ask questions if you're not clear. And, give feedback that shows you're actually listening, not just waiting to talk, nodding, that kind of thing.
Okay, so active listening is the foundation.
Yeah.
Once we're doing that, how do we actually structure the meeting itself? What makes a collaborative writing meeting actually work?
Right, setting the agenda. The source breaks this down really well. First, you got to define the task super clearly. What exactly are we doing? Deadline, audience, scope. Everyone needs to be on the same page.
Nail that down first. Got it.
Then choose a team leader. Not necessarily a boss, but someone who acts as the link, coordinates things, maybe talks to management.
The point person.
Yeah. Then define tasks for each member. How are we splitting this up? Is it based on who knows what, the technical experts? Or maybe by stages, research, drafting, editing? Or maybe people take whole sections. The team needs to agree on the best way.
Okay. Makes sense of the different ways to slice it.
Then establish procedures. How are we going to work day to day? How do we handle disagreements when they pop up? Iron that out early.
Proactive conflict resolution. Good idea.
And definitely create a style sheet before anyone writes a single word. Define the headings, the tone, the format, key terms. This stops that Frankenstein document issue we mentioned.
Yes. Avoid the monster.
Exactly. Then, obviously, establish a work schedule. Clear milestones, clear deadlines, and finally create evaluation materials. How are we going to judge if the work is good? Make that clear up front, too.
Wow, that's quite a checklist. But it sounds like doing that work up front saves a lot of pain later. And, thinking about procedures, expectations, the source also mentions ethics and collaboration. It's not just what you write, but how you work together.
That's a really important point. The core idea is basically pull your weight, but it's broader than just doing your assigned tasks. It's about being a responsible team member, especially in today's digital world. Our source highlights some potential ethical slips. Things like, are you really focused during work time or spending too much time on personal social media? Are you careful with confidential company info shared within the team?
Basic professionalism, really.
Right. And it extends to personal stuff, too. Respecting colleagues' privacy regarding things like religion or politics stuff that just doesn't belong in a work discussion. And obviously avoiding any kind of racist or sexist comments or posting inappropriate things like, pictures of last night's party. It's about maintaining a respectful, trustworthy environment.
Creates that safe space for everyone to actually contribute their best work. So trust and respect are fundamental. But even with the best intentions, communication can be tricky, especially giving feedback on someone else's writing. How do we do that well?
Yeah, that's delicate. The source has great advice on communicating diplomatically and specifically on critiquing a team member's work. For general diplomacy, listen without interrupting, let everyone speak, no personal attacks, obviously. Be respectful even if you disagree.
Keep it professional.
Absolutely. Don't overstate your case. Don't get too emotionally attached to your own ideas. Ask good questions and pay attention to body language, the nonverbal stuff.
Okay. And for the critique itself, that's the really tough part.
It can be. The advice is gold, though. Always start with something positive. Acknowledge the effort, then tackle the big issues first, structure, argument before you get into tiny edits. But the absolute #1 rule highlighted in the source, talk about the document, not the writer.
That's key. Focus on the work itself.
Huge difference. Instead of saying, why didn't you put the price comparison here like you said you would? That sounds accusatory, right?
Yeah, put someone on the defensive immediately.
Right. A much better way is something like, I wonder if the report would be stronger if we included the price comparisons here. See the difference. It's collaborative, focused on improvement, not blame.
That shift from you to we, or the document, is so powerful. It really changes the dynamic, makes feedback constructive instead of, destructive.
Okay.
So we've covered the careful planning, the people dynamics, the communication. But how do we actually do this stuff day to day? Let's talk about the tools, the technology that makes modern collaboration possible.
Right, the tools. They're essential now. The source groups them nicely. Let's start with just basic word processors. We all know track changes, but the real power for collaboration comes from things like comment features, used well for actual discussion, not just typos, and version history, maybe even real-time co-editing in some platforms.
So you're always working on the latest version, hopefully.
Exactly, keeps things centralized. Then you have all the messaging technologies. IM, chat, email, texting, even microblogging like Twitter or Yammer internally. The key is using the right tool for the job. Quick question, maybe chat. Formal decision. Probably email, for the record. Team update. Microblogging might work.
Using them strategically.
Right. And for richer interaction, video conferencing. Skype, Zoom, dedicated systems. They allow face-to-face screen sharing, document sharing. But again, it's about using it well. Practice with the tech. Set up your space properly. Look at the camera. Minimize distractions.
Avoid the awkward tech fails.
Please. Then there's a huge leap with wikis and shared document workspaces. These really change the game compared to emailing files back and forth.
Oh yeah, the endless email attachments.
Nightmare. So wikis think Wikipedia, but often internal let authorized people collectively build and edit web documents. Great for knowledge bases. And shared workspaces like Microsoft SharePoint or Google Drive. They let multiple people work on the same document at the same time.
That simultaneous editing is huge.
It is. Plus, tracking revisions is automatic. You can have chat threads right in the document. The source mentions Taser using Quip for press releases. Everyone jumps in, edits, comments simultaneously. It speeds things up massively and actually encourages people to contribute because it's so easy.
Removes the friction.
Exactly. And finally, you've got these bundled collaboration programs, suites like IBM, Same Time, Adobe Creative Cloud, Skype for Business. They pull everything together. Messaging, documents, video, project management, usually cloud-based, accessible anywhere, customizable, and secure. For big projects or organizations, that integration is incredibly powerful.
It really shows how far we've come. The reach and potential is just amazing, especially when you get into things like crowdsourcing.
Crowdsourcing is such an interesting angle, using large groups of people, often volunteers, to tackle problems. Think GitHub for open source code, millions collaborating.
Yeah.
Or Zooniverse, where volunteers help scientists analyze huge data sets.
No, millions.
Yeah. And the source mentions Liza Potts' research on social media in disasters like Hurricane Katrina. People on the ground sharing information that citizen-generated content was vital when official channels were down.
So tapping into the collective in a massive way.
Right. As another researcher, Jenny Gilbert, notes, it's great for large-scale problems, distributed problem solving, though managing quality and consistency with written output from a crowd is, its own challenge.
Absolutely. Okay, so beyond the processes and the amazing tools, there are these really important human elements that shape everything. Let's talk about gender and culture and collaboration, sometimes overlooked, but crucial.
Very crucial. When we look at gender and collaboration, the source points out that, well, due to different socialization patterns, men and women might sometimes bring different communication styles to a team. Historically, traditional roles might have influenced this, maybe women valuing connection, men valuing separateness. These are broad strokes, of course.
General tendencies, not rules.
Exactly. Observations suggest women in teams might often focus more on consensus, relationships, perhaps show more empathy, have strong listening skills. Men might sometimes be more competitive or direct. But the key takeaway isn't about putting people in boxes. It's a recommendation for everyone, regardless of gender, to cultivate an androgynous mix of skills. To draw on the strengths associated with both traditional styles to be a more effective, versatile collaborator.
Blending the best of different approaches. Makes sense. Now, what about culture, when you have teams working across different countries or cultural backgrounds?
Yeah, culture and collaboration adds another fascinating and sometimes challenging layer. The difficulty is really understanding that behaviors that seem normal in one culture might be interpreted very differently in another. The source gives examples, things that can cause friction if you don't understand the cultural context. Like in some cultures, people might find it hard to be very assertive, or they might avoid saying no directly, even if they disagree, which could be mistaken for agreement. Precisely. Or maybe a reluctance to admit they're confused, or to criticize someone else's work openly, or even hesitation about starting a task without very explicit instructions.
Different norms around hierarchy or directness?
Exactly. There's an example of a U.S. student asking a Japanese student very direct personal questions. The U.S. student thinks they're being friendly. The Japanese student might feel it's quite invasive. The point is, Stay open-minded. Don't jump to conclusions based on your own cultural lens. Try to understand the why behind someone's communication style, especially in a writing team where tone and feedback are so important.
That awareness seems absolutely critical for global teams or even just diverse teams in one location. Understanding those subtle dynamics is key to making collaboration truly work. Okay, so what does this all mean? We've covered a ton today, from why collaboration is everywhere, the good and the bad bits, the nuts and bolts of managing projects, to running better meetings, leveraging all these digital tools, wow, from word processors right into crowdsourcing, and then these really crucial human factors, gender and culture.
Yeah, I think the main takeaway is that collaborative writing is so much more than just, sticking bits of text together in one document. It's this complex dance between strategy, tools, communication, and understanding people. Getting it right, really making it successful, means paying thoughtful attention to all of those pieces. They all have to work together.
So maybe here's a final thought for you to take away. The next time you're heading into a collaborative writing project, think beyond just the task list. Ask yourself, how can I actively help leverage the unique skills, the different viewpoints of every single person on this team? What hidden talent, what quiet perspective, or what cultural insight might be the key to making this document not just good, but truly great? And how can we navigate those potential pitfalls we talked about? That's the challenge. That's the real deep dive.